Take your things and go.
Debo, please, just listen to me.
I won't hear another word. Go now!
Please, Debo, don't do this. I have never touched another man in my life.
Some people are simply good at lying.
Ifeoma, how can I believe you?
I swear it.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
God, you are the only one watching.
Let her explain to the whole street then.
Everybody saw you with that man, Ifeoma.
Please, it's not what you think. Liar! The shame you've brought.
It's the first woman a man's mother has destroyed, Nkechi told her one evening, forcing a plate of rice into her sister's unwilling hands. But you will not be the woman who lets it finish her. I refuse to bury you while you are still breathing, Ifeoma. It was Nkechi who pushed her, gently and then not so gently, toward what she did best. Not just tailoring, but the small catering she had once done for family events, back when she was still a girl, helping her mother prepare food for weddings and burials in the village. Ifeoma remembered the particular alchemy of her mother's jollof rice, the way a pot of something ordinary could become something people remembered for years. She started small. A birthday party for Nkechi's co-worker, 40 plates prepared in a borrowed kitchen at 4 a.m, so the smell wouldn't wake the neighbors. Then a naming ceremony. Then a modest wedding reception for a couple who could not afford the caterers with proper storefronts and proper vans. Her name began to travel, slowly, quietly, through the particular word-of-mouth economy that runs beneath every Lagos neighborhood, in rooms Mama Beatrice never entered, and among people who had never heard the version of Ifeoma's story with teeth. Kingsley Obi did not sleep well in the months that followed. He had spent the money Mama Beatrice paid him within 6 weeks, clearing his most pressing debts, buying himself a little breathing room he had not felt in years. But breathing room, he discovered, was a poor trade for a conscience that refused to stay quiet. He heard fragments of what had happened to Ifeoma through the same market gossip network that had once carried the lie to Debo's ears. He heard from a fellow trader who knew Nkechi's neighbor that she had been reduced to mending strangers' clothes on a borrowed machine. He told himself each time that it was not truly his doing, that Mama Beatrice had built the fire and he had only supplied a single stick. It took 11 months for that excuse to finally collapse under its own weight. He heard one Thursday at the same store where it had all begun that a young caterer named Ifeoma had been hired for a prestigious event at Grandview Event Center, an anniversary celebration for a prominent Lagos family, the kind of event where reputations were made and unmade over jollof rice and careful conversation. And he heard in the same breath that the guest of honor for that event was a well-respected older woman from Belcourt Estate named Mama Beatrice Adeyinka. Kingsley sat with that information for 3 days before he could no longer sit with it at all. He went to Debo first, not to Mama Beatrice, not to the gathering crowd of gossip that once destroyed a marriage in an evening, but to the one man whose life he had helped ruin without ever laying a hand on anyone. He found him after work, near the logistics depot, and he told him everything, his voice shaking with a shame he had been carrying silently for nearly a year. The payment, the staged closeness at the market stall, the lie his own mother had built from nothing but resentment and a fear of being left behind. "I am not asking you to forgive me," Kingsley said, unable to meet Debo's eyes. "I am asking you to know the truth before it is too late to matter." Debo did not sleep that night, or the 2 nights after it. He sat alone in the flat that had once held 2 people's laughter, replaying 3 years of Sunday dinners, of soft, reasonable warnings, of a mother who had held his hands the way she did when he was a boy afraid of storms, and understood with the particular horror of a man realizing he has been a weapon in someone else's war, exactly what he had done to the person who had loved him most honestly. The following week, at Grandview Event Center, Ifeoma arrived before dawn with her small team to set up the very reception her mother-in-law would preside over as guest of honor. She did not know until she saw the family name on the event signage, whose anniversary celebration she had been hired to cater for. By then, it was too late to withdraw without abandoning a contract that had taken her a year of bleeding fingers to earn. She decided, standing in that unfamiliar kitchen with her sleeves rolled and her spine straight, that she would not run from a woman who had already taken everything else from her. Mama Beatrice did not recognize the name on the catering contract. Ifeoma had registered her small business under her maiden name, Chukwuemeka Catering, a detail that had saved her from being turned away at the door. She did not know until she walked past the kitchen entrance in her elaborate gele and saw the woman she had destroyed standing calmly over a pot of jollof rice, whose hands had prepared the meal she was about to praise to 200 guests. The two women looked at each other across the kitchen doorway for a long, silent moment. Long enough for every unspoken accusation of the past year to pass between them without a single word. "You are not welcome here," Mama Beatrice said, finally, low enough that only Ifeoma could hear. "I was hired here," Ifeoma answered, just as low, "by people who know nothing about the story you told my husband. Enjoy your evening, Mama." She turned back to her pots, and her hands did not shake. Debo arrived uninvited halfway through his mother's toast to the anniversary couple, his agbada still creased from a day he had spent gathering the courage to walk through those doors. He stood at the back of the hall for a full minute, watching his mother hold a glass of champagne and a room's admiration in the same practiced hand before he began walking toward the front. "I need everyone to hear something," he said, his voice carrying across a hall that had gone suddenly, uncomfortably quiet. Mama Beatrice's smile did not fully leave her face, but something behind her eyes went very still. "Debo, this is not the place." "It is exactly the place, because you built this lie in front of people, Mama. You will answer for it in front of people too." He told them everything. The market performance staged by a struggling trader named Kingsley Obi. The payment his mother had made to destroy a marriage she had never approved of. The year his wife had spent homeless, humiliated, and rebuilding herself from nothing, while he believed a story his own mother had invented from jealousy and fear. He named the market stall. He named the date. He named his mother's exact words the night she delivered the lie disguised as grief. Kingsley, standing near the entrance where he had come to witness the truth land, did not deny a single detail when Debo turned toward him and asked him to confirm it in front of the room. Mama Beatrice's face did not recover that evening. Whispers moved through the hall faster than she could contain them, and the very reputation she had spent a lifetime protecting, the reputation she had tried to save her son from damaging by marrying beneath his status, collapsed in the span of a single toast, in the same rooms she had built it in. Ifeoma emerged from the kitchen when she had her own name spoken aloud by her husband, still in her apron, still with flour dust on her wrist. She did not run to Debo's arms, though the whole room seemed to expect it, though even Debo himself half expected it, reaching toward her with the desperate hope of a man wanting instant absolution. She had earned, through 11 months of bleeding fingers and borrowed floors, and a business built entirely from her own two hands, the right to make him wait. "Ifeoma, I am not angry that you know the truth now, Debo, she said quietly, in front of a room that had gone silent again for an entirely different reason. I am asking myself why it took a stranger's guilt to make you believe me when I told you myself, on my knees, in our own compound, and you chose your mother's version instead. Ifeoma, I am so sorry. I will do anything. Then, prove it, she said, not with an apology in front of an audience, with a year of showing up, of choosing me over her doubts, over her tears, over whatever new story she invents when this one stops working. I will not be rushed back into a home that once threw me into the street on a rumor. If you want me back, Debo, you will earn it slowly, the way I earned everything I have built without you. Debo agreed without argument because he understood, finally and completely, that he had nothing left to bargain with except time and consistency, the two things he had failed to offer her the first time it mattered. A year passed the way real years do, not in dramatic gestures, but in small, repeated choices. Debo visited Nkechi's neighborhood every week, not to plead, but simply to be present, to fix a leaking tap, to sit quietly while Ifeoma worked, to prove through patience what he had failed to prove through passion. He stopped taking his mother's calls when she tried, twice, to reintroduce doubt into his rebuilding trust. He moved out of Mama Beatrice's influence entirely, renting a small flat of his own, choosing distance as its own form of apology. Ifeoma's kitchen business, now properly registered under Chukwuemeka Catering, carried her name across 3 estates by the time the year ended. She hired back her old apprentices. She opened a second kitchen. She did not need Debo's return to survive, and it was precisely that fact, that she had rebuilt a full life without requiring him, that made her eventual decision to let him back in feel like a choice rather than a rescue. Mama Beatrice, isolated by her own son's choice and exposed before the community whose opinion she valued more than her daughter-in-law's dignity, watched all of it from a distance entirely of her own making. The women at church who once admired her stopped calling. The society events that once sought her presence as guest of honor stopped sending invitations. She had spent a lifetime building a name on other people's respect, and she had burned it in a single evening trying to protect a version of her son that never needed protecting. Some crowns, Ifeoma often said afterward to the women who asked how she survived that year, are not worth the silence they cost the people who wear them. She never went looking for Mama Beatrice's apology. It never came. She did not need it to.